Hey up everybody, welcome back to the I'll Do Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be doing our deep dive analysis of the VELOGAMES Spain competition. Something that we do just for the Grand Tours, but if this is something which you'd like to see me do maybe for the smaller stage race competitions, then be sure to let me know in the comments down below. It's something which I'm considering doing next year. But aside from that, this recording is pretty much going to be completely unedited because it would take me too long to edit something that's like 30 plus minutes, and it will pretty much be dictated in length by whatever runs out first, the SD card or the battery. So go get yourself a cup of tea, a snack or something like that, pull up your VELOGAMES team, and let's just have a good old chat for 30-40 minutes about VELOGAMES and kind of the thinking which I'm going through at the moment. A few days out, today I've made a team which is more kind of, I look at it and I feel a bit more confident in it. When I went into the Tour and I had the team there, I felt really confident in it from quite a few days out, whereas I haven't quite felt this for the Vuelta. I'm not sure if it's just me, whether, you know, I don't know, it just seems quite hard to make a team which I'm fully satisfied with. But anyway, let's talk about it. So Jonas is tricky because, you know, this is something which I sort of brought up, and now it's sort of VELOGAMES law, which is the 100 points per rider credit. That's, you know, we may as well start referring that to, you know, points per rider credit, like PPC, points per credit or something like that. So Jonas needs like 2,800 points in theory to be a realistic kind of good pick, and I'm just not sure if that's entirely possible. I think that him and Roglic both just about exceeded that in the Tour, but, you know, they were 26 and 24 credits, and so I'm not entirely convinced that Jonas is going to be able to do that when you consider just how many breakaway stages there are. You know, let's take a look at the stage profiles whilst we're here, because I'm not certain about it. I think that in the first week there's not too many opportunities. You know, he's probably not going to win that individual time trial like he did in the Tour. So he'll get the TTT, which is, in theory, actually it takes away points because, you know, a TTT doesn't have quite a lot of points on offer. So if anything, that reduces his points kind of tally ability. But, you know, I see, you know, he'll be all right in stage 2 and stage 3. But, you know, I see just a lot of these breakaway stages where riders go up the road and then the GC guys contest for like 8th place or something like that. You know, although, don't get me wrong, Jonas is the favourite for this race, and I guess I'm just trying to provide reasoning for why I'm not wanting to pick him, but there's something which is just holding me back from selecting him. I'm not sure if it's because of the Jumbo dynamic where they've got Roglic here as well, and whether they, you know, would perhaps favour Roglic to win because then he exceeds kind of the record of most Vuelta victories. I feel like Roglic has had a better preparation for the Vuelta. You know, he's been fully focused on this since the Giro, and as far as we know, he's had no problems with his preparation. But I just see a lot of these stages going to the breakaway, and, you know, especially if Jumbo are in control after the TTT at the start, they'll just let guys go for the breakaway all the time and just force other teams to really take it to them. So, you know, you got stages like this, which end with like a 5% climb, like, I don't think Jonas is going to be contesting that. So, yeah, I don't know. How many stages do you reckon Jonas is going to contest? Like, serious, like, will definitely, you know, be up there in the top 5. Like, one of them is there. I'd probably say, probably not that one. This one, so that's 2 stages. What else have we got? 3 on the Tourmalet. Maybe this one. Maybe 4, and then you've got 5 up the Angliru, and then 6 here, and then, you know, I don't really see much else. Maybe the TT he comes top 5, so maybe he's got like 6 or 7 stages which he contests pretty strongly, and then he gets something like 600 in assists, well, like the GC points, when he gets the 600 at the end. I reckon he's going to be somewhere near 2,500, something like that, I would hazard to guess. So he is going to be a big point accumulator in this, but I'm just trying to provide reasoning as to why you might not want to pick Jonas. Like, at the moment, I don't have Jonas in my team. I've gone with Roglic, Evenepoel and Ayuso because from the Tour and also just other races, other Grand Tours, we see that the big riders at the top get the most amount of points, and then you sort of just fill it out with riders who are like 4 credits and 6 credits, and you just hope that you get the best ones, and that's really what decides guys from finishing 1,000th versus finishing inside the top 100 is literally just a few hundred points. But I think that's the Jonas kind of thing gone with, talked about. He is a good pick, don't get me wrong. He absolutely, could very well win this race, but I think there are some question marks about him in terms of, him and Roglic and how that's going to work. And is Jonas, how's he doing? How's he going to do after, the Tour de France? How's his kind of preparation been for that? Has he been on an altitude camp, etc.? So if you can fit Jonas in your team, by all means go for it. I think that's probably, he is the safest bet. But at 28, yeah, it is a little bit risky. It's not very frequent that you see a rider that expensive. But Roglic, let's talk about Roglic. He's had very good prep for this race. Did good at Burgos. Was he at his absolute limit at Burgos? And, was that all he was kind of able to give? And was he only just about beating Adam Yates and Vlasov? I don't think so. I think that, that was just kind of a little bit of a test for Roglic. But I think that he's still got more to give. And I just think that he's got a good punch. So on something like stage 2, I reckon he could be very competitive as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Roglic can do. I haven't had him on my team, I don't think, at all this year. So I'm quite looking forward to having him on my team and kind of seeing what he can do. Evenepoel will have the advantage of the time trial, of course, but his team is weak comparatively to other GC guys like UAE and Jumbo. So Evenepoel's an interesting one because I like Evenepoel as a GC candidate for this race. We saw last year that he was really good at this race. I know Roglic DNF'd, but Evenepoel got something near, I think he might have got over 2,000 points last year. I can't exactly remember, but I think that Evenepoel is still worth it. And I'm looking for, he's again just one of those exciting sort of riders. And then Ayuso as well. I think Ayuso, he was 10 credits last year and he got 1,600 points, and now he's 18 credits. So if he was to do a similar feat, then he'd get, he wouldn't hit the 100 PPC. But I think that he's going to be better than last year, to be honest with you, because, last year he didn't finish inside the top 10 that many times, but I think that he could do better this time round. We're seeing him do a lot better in the time trial. This year, he's won a couple of TT stages in the Swiss races, so I'm quite high on Ayuso, but I do think that 18 maybe is a little bit steep. If he was 16 credits, I'd be all over that, but 18 is just maybe a little bit on the fringe. I realise for some people, he would probably be the first one that I would drop of any of the 4. He would be the first one to probably go, just because I've got a little bit of uncertainty about him. I mean, Almeida's here, for goodness sake. I'm not sure about the climb suiting Almeida. I saw it on the Lantern Rouge cycling podcast. They were talking about his ability to kind of do well over longer climbs, and I think they are right. The staccato style of a lot of these climbs, where it's steep and then it levels off and it's steep and it levels off, I don't think that suits Almeida that much. So I'm probably going to avoid him. His TT is good, but it's still not great. It's probably on a it's a little bit off what it was when he was at Quickstep. G. I do think that Almeida is a decent choice. I think that he'll probably get like 1,200 points, so again, not like 100 PPC. G, do I think he's going to hit that threshold? Maybe, to be honest with you. Like, he is a big conundrum because he's not one which I'm considering putting on, but that might just be a bit of short-sightedness from me. I think that G is, he's probably going to come top 5. He's going to do good in the TT. He'll be very consistent over a lot of the stages, but if a lot of these go to, breakaways, and then it's the guys in the GC fight are fighting for, let's say 6th place down to 10th, G is probably not going to be winning that fight. So instead of finishing 5th, he's going to finish 10th. And those accumulated kind of, I don't want to say losses, but, he's probably not going to gain as much points because he doesn't have that snap. He's very much kind of like a diesel engine. But I do think that he could get near 1,500 points, to be honest with you. I just think there's a lot of these guys who aren't quite hitting the 100 PPC. Arensman, Bernal, blah, 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 blah. I'm sticking away from them, to be honest with you. I just think you need to be picking at least 2 of these guys in this slot, be it, anywhere from Jonas down to Almeida. You need to pick 2 of them. So therefore, these other guys are just obsolete in my eyes. I know that if you've got them on your teams, you probably wanted me to talk about them, but I just don't really have much to say. I don't think they're that brilliant picks, considering that you really need the GC riders in there. Speaking of GC riders, Mas, Vlasov, Lenny Martinez, Vine. If you saw my preview yesterday, you will have said that, or you will have seen that I said that I'm not too high on these guys, and I do stick by that. I just think there's especially a lot of question marks over Mas and Martinez and Vine as to how their what their role is here. I know that Mas is the leader, but coming back from injury, I'm not willing to bank somebody getting 1,000. He's going to need 1,600 points to be like a very competitive rider here, and I'm not sure about him doing that considering the caliber of field that's here and the fact that he's coming back from injury and his team is okay, but it's not brilliant. And I just think that Mas is just a little bit too risky for me this time round. But if you're willing to put the gamble on him, then by all means go for it. Vlasov was good at Burgos, good at San Sebastian. I think he'll probably come top 10 in GC alongside Itebrooks. Sabora could do alright in Team GC as well there. But something about Vlasov just kind of holds me back. I'm just not convinced about his ability over 3 weeks, to be honest, even at this point, even though he has finished multiple times in the top 10 of Grand Tours. So Vlasov I do think is decent. I think that he could hit 1,400 points if things absolutely go correctly. And, he was good at Burgos, so why not? I would say that Vlasov of the four would be the one that I'd be most likely to consider. Martinez, like I've said, Grand Tour debutant. He's not going to hit 1,200 points. I don't see it happening for a debutant as well. He's not quite on a Pogačar or Ayuso level. Tour de l'Avenir last year, he was being beaten by Itebrooks by minutes, like literal minutes. And Itebrooks is cheaper, so why would I pick Martinez when I can pick Itebrooks? That's my reasoning behind that. Vine, I just think will be a domestique this time round, which is a real shame. He's very I really consider Vine to be sort of a bit of a king of the mountains of the Vuelta. He's really good at getting those breaks, but I don't think we're going to see that too much. And then these guys in the 10 credit category, Bardet, Dunbar and Itebrooks are my favourites still. I just think that the other guys, do I see these ones hitting 1,000 points? Probably not, especially like a Lander. I'm not high on Lander. Kuss is alright because he'll get loads of assist points, but how knackered is he going to be? Third Grand Tour, like holy moly. Higuita's more of a puncher, not a GC guy. Dunbar's actually decent because he hit almost, I think like 800 in the Giro. He's 10 credits this time round, He hit 800 in the Giro, and that was a good performance, right? That was like a 7th place in GC, above expectations, good TT, very solid. Things didn't go wrong, and he got like 800 points, so do I think that he's going to hit 1,000? Like, probably not. Bardet, again, interesting one. I'm not sure if he's going to go for GC or for breakaways. That's just completely up in the air. I have no idea. I would say that Bardet will try to go for GC, but will eventually somewhat fall towards the top 10 and end up doing what Pino did sort of in the Tour, where he was attacking into breaks. And I think that he'll get like nearish 1,000, maybe somewhere about 700, so probably a decent point haul from Bardet. But I want to talk about Itebrooks because I mentioned him, I was high on him earlier on, and also in my preview yesterday. Think back to Ayuso last year. Think back to the fact that he got 1,600-ish points last year, and he was 10 credits, and he was a sensational talent. And I think that Itebrooks, after we've had so many sensational talents come through the grinder, we've had the Jonas, we've had the Evenepoel, we've had Ayuso, we've had Bernal, we've had continuous just wonder kids coming out, and maybe people have started to rest on their laurels a bit and not pick Itebrooks. But do I think that he could exceed 1,000 points? Yeah, I absolutely do think he could do. Look back to what he's been doing this year. I think he's just been finishing pretty consistently inside the top 10 in like every single stage race. I think, where is he? I like Itebrooks for this. I know that he is 20 years old, but Itebrooks was 19 last year. 7th in Tour de Suisse, which I know is a little bit of a caveat because of Almeida, which is very sad. But, he was good in these mountain stages, 5th and 4th. He wasn't getting dropped that badly. Agal won, but he was only just gapped by Evenepoel and Skelmo, so he was beating Bilbao, who, remember how good he did in the Tour. He was gapping Bardet. And then, Romandy, his TT isn't that great, but final 2000, he was 6th place there. He's not gapped too much, 23 seconds off of Adam Yates, who, again, how good he did in the Tour. So, I like Aitor Brooks for this. If he finished 6th to 8th in GC, I think that's brilliant, to be honest. I think that he could finish inside of, top 6. And can he hit 1,000 points? Well, take a look at what Ayuso did last year, per se, as a bit of a comparison to see, what Aitor Brooks has to try and reach. So, Ayuso did finish 3rd, so he's got to finish, what was this? Once, twice, 3rd, 4th, 5th, it's 6 times inside the top 10. And, he finished, what was it? Ayuso finished once inside of the top 3. So it's not unattainable things to be aiming for. I do see, there's the top 4, and then I think there's, G and Almeida. But I think that Aitor Brooks could sneak up into that. I think that he could be a real surprise, and I just have this vision of there being the GC group, and then Aitor Brooks is just bridging across to Jonas and Roglic and Evenepoel and something like that, and everyone's just whoa, why? Aitor Brooks is insane. So I like Aitor Brooks in conclusion. 8 credit riders, Max Poole, big fan of this, big fan of Poole. You're a rider from Yorkshire, so maybe I've got a little bit of bias towards him, but similar to Aitor Brooks, he's done very well this year. I especially think back to the Dauphiné. I know he was 13th in GC, but that was because he really capitulated on that last stage. He was 5th up the Quad Affair, which is just incredible considering the day that came before that. That wasn't just one climb at the end, it was a lot of accumulated climbing. But I'm confused as to what his role is going to be. If he was a pure guy going for breakaway stages, he would be brilliant. But the fact of the matter is, I'm worried that Poole is going to try go for GC. He's going to do something kind of like what Aurelien Palipentula did, where he's going to finish top 15 or something like that. And I just don't think that's going to be the greatest use of his talents. Whereas I think that if he was let loose in breakaways purely, I think that he would be a great choice. But, there's also Onley, there's also Bardet in that team, so it's a little bit saturated in terms of climbing talent, so maybe he doesn't get his chance to shine, but maybe I'm just trying to talk myself out of picking him because I don't have him in my team right now. But I like Poole. I like Rubio as well. He was good in, he won a stage at the Giro. He got over that 600 credits, which was really good because he hit his 100 PPC. And can Rubio do the same again here? He's going to need to get 800 points. He's going to need to do really good in breakaways. He was decent in Burgos, but not brilliant. But, maybe he wasn't at his best form. Maybe there's still yet to come. I think that Rubio's a decent shout, to be honest with you. I think that he will get about 800 points. Kind of similar to what Buitrago did, actually, in the Giro. Because Buitrago got that one stage win and then finished 13th in GC. Speaking of which, let's talk about Buitrago. A lot of hype around him. I put some hype on him yesterday as well. 6 credits. I just think, can he hit 600 points? I just think that's a pretty low quota for Buitrago to be hitting, considering what he's done in the past. Somebody did mention yesterday, which is a very good point, Vuelta last year, I think he was 8 credits, and I think I might have had him on my team then, and he got 40 points or something ridiculously low. And yeah, I would say that maybe at Burgos he didn't look that great. I mean, the only stage he did good in, he was smoked by Lazcano in a sprint. So maybe there's, I would have expected him to maybe do better in GC at Burgos. So maybe there is something there where maybe he's not in the best form. But I'm still going to recommend him because I think that, the small chance that Buitrago isn't going to do well doesn't outweigh the absolute kind of value that he provides at being 6 credits, to be honest. Kras, not bad. He'll probably get in a couple of breakaways. As well, Kenny. Is Kenny in a contract year? Because this is a big thing, is that riders who are in contract years seem to pull out some mad performances. Yeah, Kenny is in a contract year. He was alright at Tour de Lam, but it's worth noting that he was dropped big time by Michael Storer, 2 minutes. So quite high on Storer. Get onto him in a minute. But yeah, King Kenny. Do like King Kenny. And in a contract year, you know, these riders do tend to pull out good performances. Think back to Battistella last year. He was in a contract year and he got like 600 points in the Vuelta last year. It's just one example. Guerrero hasn't done much since like the Giro where he won the KOM jersey. Or, you know, what was it? It was like the Mont Ventoux Challenge last year. And then I picked him for the Tour and then he crashed. Jesus Herrada is usually really good. Won a stage last year. Very suited to a lot of the stages actually. The ones which are just sort of flat hill. I think that Herrada's a really good pick for a lot of those. So I like him too. Pools won a stage of a Tour. Bahrain do have a lot of... I mean, Bahrain, you know, how many climbers do they have in their team actually? You know, they do have Pools. So we've got Boitrago, Caruso, Landa, Pools. I would say realistically are their climbing talents. Caruso seems to be more of a road captain. Landa's just a bit nah. So yeah, Pools will probably have quite a few opportunities. So Pools is a pretty good one. Storer is the one I'm highest on. You know, Storer, back in 2021, if you guys remember that, he got like 800 points or something like that. And look back to what he did before that performance in 2021. He won the Tour de l'Ain. He got 97th, 2nd and 1st. Remember that? 97th, 2nd and 1st. And then this year, he got 97th, 2nd and 1st, and he won 1st in GC. So the stars are aligned, guys. Storer's going to do what he did in 2021 again. You know, I honestly think that, you know, you guys might just be like, oh, you know, that's kind of rubbish. You know, it's not exactly the same. But the fact of the matter is, he slapped in 2021, and that was and he's just done the same thing again in preparation. So I think he's going to slap again. And I think that Groupama, I don't think they have, you know, they have the strongest climbing team. You know, Storer, Millard, Gregoire, Martinez. That's their climbing squad. Gregoire isn't that great over long climbs. Neither's Millard. He's more of like a domestique, gets into the red jersey a little bit. Martinez will go for GC. So Storer's all up for the breakaway, and I think he could come top 20 as well. He's done some decent GC performances this year as well. In like, what was it? Tour de Suisse 17th, UAE Tour 12th. So why not? Why not fling a Storer in there if you don't like a Boitrago or whatever? So sprinters, Cockard, Groves, these tricky buggers who have just come into our lives, shaking things up. Honestly, they're both really good choices. They really are. Are they going to win stages? Yes. Are they going to hit 1,200 points though? Probably not. I think that they'll probably get about 900 apiece, and for that reason I don't think they're particularly great value. I think that, you know, that they've come in late and George has seen the quality of their name and he's thought, well, they're better than a Milano, so they have to be more expensive, which is fair. That's, you know, for sound reasoning. But yeah, I don't see them doing that great. There's like 5 sprint stages or whatever. I just think that Dainese is the best of the kind of value ones. I think that he's won stages in the past. Look back to the Giro d'Italia where I can't remember how many points he got in the Giro d'Italia. I should probably just pull up the VELOGAMES stats, but, you know, 4th, he didn't do that. Actually, that's a really terrible example because he did bad in this year's Giro d'Italia. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's not the greatest pick then. But I think back to especially, you know, the Giro d'Italia in 2022, 5th, 1st, 7th and 9th. If he got those points and then 5th in the points classification, you know, I think that he's a pretty good rider. He's got stage wins in the Giro. I reckon he could add the Vuelta to these. And when you consider the pure sprinting speed of a lot of these guys, you know, Dainese, Milano, Groves and Cockard are the fastest ones, and I think that Dainese could come top 4, top 5 in a lot of the sprints. Tayson I wouldn't pick. I just don't think that he's fast enough, in all honesty. I don't think Cortina is fast enough either. Neither's Hofstetter, neither's Menton. Vandenberg, I know I'm seeing a lot of hype about his climbing ability and getting breakaways, but the climbers don't care about getting in breakaways unless they're really keen for the points classification, which I only see Cockard doing, realistically. I just don't see Vandenberg being asked with going into breakaways, although he is in a contract year and therefore getting some good results here will be of high importance to him. But he doesn't have a lead out train, but it didn't stop him in Tour of Poland, so maybe it won't stop him here. 6 credit riders. I was really high on Rob Geese actually at the very start of all this, but Rob Geese is now gone down because we've had the addition of better sprinters. So although Alpecin do have a very good lead out train, now they've added in Groves here. Rob Geese is like just a no-go. I would say the best 6 credit ones are Edward Turns and Engelhart and Van der Laan. Turns probably as the pure sprinter. Engelhart and Van der Laan are more versatile riders who get over a few lumps and bumps, and Van der Laan might get in some breaks or something as well. But now we get into arguably the juiciest part of it all, which is the unclassified riders. This is where you come, where you are really, this is where the fine margins are. This is the cherry on top of the cake. There's no point in getting any of these right if you've got all your GC riders wrong, okay? So my main point to anybody would be, don't compromise on your GC riders to try and get in a 6 credit rider instead of a 4 credit rider, okay? Because it's not worth it. Trust me, I've done it in the past. If you are saying, I'm not going to put in, Ayuso, and I'm instead going to put in Vlasov because I don't want to have Jason Osborne and Romo in my team, and I instead want to have some 6 credit riders, that's not the move to make. You need to get your GC riders, the base of your team, the guys who are going to get the most points. You need to get those right first, otherwise the whole thing comes crumbling down. Alright, so get that in your head first. Now let's talk about the unclassified riders. The 8 credit riders, always a little bit risky, to be honest with you. I think that the best ones are Gregoire and Ganna. I think that Bajoli isn't going to do that much. I think that Evenepoel is going to have, we are doing this. And I just think that Bajoli, he's in decent form and he's already got a contract for next year, so there's no pressure to do anything here. Volta's just here to get assist points. Gregoire, a lot of hype around him, but he's not that great on the long climbs, guys. And just look at how many short climbs there are in this race. Everybody's looking at stage 2. I get that. You're looking at stage 20. But Gregoire is just maybe not the guy who's going to be the best value for money. But if you just like him as a rider, then go for it, because he will probably do very well on a couple of stages, or maybe like 3 or 4 stages. But I think that's why I like Gregoire and Ganna. I think Ganna's an interesting one because yes, there's the TTT and the individual time trial where he's going to get somewhere, that's 200 points already as a de facto. Then assist points he gets up to, I don't know, call it 350 with the end of tour points as well. That means he needs to get 450 points. I honestly think that Ineos on the last stage, because they won't be leading probably this race with G, could Ganna just be let loose in a sprint? Like, he has done sprints in the past and he has done them to great effect. So could Ganna get involved in the sprints? Yes, if he does, I reckon he could be one of the better picks. But I'm not willing to gamble Ganna going into sprints, to be honest with you. Vauquelin I completely missed. He is the GC guy for Arkea, but as a result of that, he's just going to end up somewhere between 10th and 15th every time. He's not going to finish that high up in GC, like top 20, but he's not going to go in breaks because he's just so focused on just GC all the time. So I don't think that Vauquelin's that great. I would say that Gregoire and Ganna are your best ones. 6 credit riders. A lot of chatter about here. There's a lot of good ones. I would say the best ones. Castro Viejo finished top 15 in the Tour. Maybe you could do the same again here, and he gets a decent TT. Deplouse. I've talked about Deplouse, and people have talked me down a little bit, I guess, from the hype which I had. But he is just a super strong rider, to be honest with you, as Deplouse. He will be, one of the final guys for G and a Rensman. He finished top 10 in the Giro, and I know that people are saying, he's not going to do that again. No, but he might come top 15. And he's going to get the TTT bonus. And I know that people are saying he won't go into the break because Ineos don't like doing that. But Pidcock won up Alpe d'Huez and Kwiatkowski won up the other Grand Colombier. I think that Deplouse might be let off the leash a little bit. He did so good in the Giro, did so much work. And I just think that, he is one of the strongest domestiques right now in the climbing category. And think back to when Roglic was winning the Vuelta in, 2021, I want to say, when Koos was let off the loose. It was a few years ago at least when Koos won. I just think that Deplouse is a pretty good one. I think that he could get in a break. I think he could finish top 15 in GC. And he got 700 plus points in the Giro. And I just think that he could do something similar. Den's 2-stage wins at the Giro, but I don't think he's going to be doing the same here, in all honesty. Finn Fisher-Black's a very interesting one. He was sprinting at the Tour of Poland. There was like a crash. It was the one that Vandenberg won. He's also a pretty strong time trialist as well. Assist points, but I don't think he's going to hit 600 points. Godon, as a bit of an outside sprinter, could be a decent one as well. I've seen some hype about Fraile winning stages and stuff, but I would back De Plus over Fraile any day of the week. Hajduk might do the sprints for Ineos, but I think that if they're thinking of Hajduk, they'd probably just go for Ganna instead, in all honesty. Who else have we got? Herahotz, I would love to pick. I'm high on Herahotz. He got me a lot of points in the Dauphiné, but I don't think my boy's going to be doing that great here. He's just not as good. He's not that great at climbing. Lazcano. Honestly, there could be a whole video about Lazcano with the amount of chatter going on about him. I've considered what you guys said, and I think you are kind of right. He is a good climber. I thought that he wasn't that great, but on that last stage of Burgos, he finished like a minute 20 down, which wasn't that bad. He finished ahead of quite a lot of climbers. There are stages which are suited to him. I've said that there aren't that many, and I do stand by that. I don't think there are that many stages which suit Lazcano down to the ground, because let's face it, above all, he is a rouleur, right? He's a rouleur who can climb pretty well, a bit like a Mohoric, all right? Is he going to get involved in the sprints? No, because they've got Ivan Garcia Cortina. So his first opportunity at success comes from breakaways, where, I don't know, do you think he's going to do well in Andorra? Do you think that he's going to get in the break here on stage 6, or is he going to be chained to mass? You know, that steep percentages, he's not going to do that great here. Maybe here, like stage 9, that's a pretty decent one. That's like a shallowish climb. He could do all right there. Another one here, you know, that's 2 stages. If this is a breakaway stages in there, so maybe that's 3. Here, this is a good one for him. That's 4 stages. This one as well, maybe 5. If this is a break, maybe 6. This one looks pretty good for him as well. Shallow climbs, that's a really good one actually. So 7. So maybe there's like 7 opportunities. Realistically, it's about 5. I was a bit generous there. So let's say it's 5 stages. Let's say he picks up about 100 points per those, which is a pretty realistic ambition. I reckon that, you know, Lazcano could be really good, and given that he is the Spanish champion, it makes sense to back him. You know, Movistar will probably like to have the Spanish champion winning because they are a Spanish team. So Lazcano, yeah, actually he is a good pick. But I stand by what I say. I don't think he's going to be the best 6 credit rider. I think that will go to somebody else. I do stick by that. Okay, now let's talk about Oscar Onley. I know there's a lot of hype around him that I've seen, and you know, some people were perhaps, you know, their dreams were kind of squashed when I was talking about him in my video yesterday. I was saying that he's not as much of a climber as perhaps you think. He's more of like a puncher. And when you look at his climbing kind of performances, you do see the climbs which he's done well on, like the Tour of Polonia climbs. Those ones were especially long. The ones which were won by Micah and by Mohoric, you know, those went particularly long. Look at the Dauphiné, like quite a fair and stuff. Like he's not really doing much there. He came top 10 in the stage, which was more like a sprint. I think that was the one where Herahotz won? No, Herahotz won. No, it was the one which Alaphilippe won. So that was like more like a puncher thing, you know. Alpe d'Huez Tour, you know, that wasn't even like the strongest competition there, but he got beaten by Leonard van Eetvelt, who's another 6 credit rider who you might want to consider instead. Tour of Hungary, like those aren't particularly long. Tour of Romandy, Tyon 2000, he's 22nd, he's getting dropped there. He did well in the stage, which was won by Ethan Hayter, and Ayuso was up there in the sprint. Volta Catalunya, he's dropped at La Molina, but he does well in the circuit around Barcelona. Volta Algarve, he does good on the stage, which was won by Pidcock. You know, but on the longer climb, the Alta de Fuaya, whatever you call it, doesn't do as well. So I consider him to be more of a puncher than a climber, and as a consequence, maybe his utility isn't as great as, say, a Pool or something. When you consider that he's going to be good on stage 2, he'll be good, you know, in a couple of breaks and stuff. If the pace isn't too hot, maybe it'll be all right. He might be good on stage 8, or you know, over here in stage 9, that could be another decent one for him. This one's only 6k. Stage 11's pretty good for him as well, and stage 15's good for him too. This one's good for him as well. Stage 16 is good. So there's a lot of stages which he could do well in stage 20 as well. So I think Onley is a good shout, but again, Grand Tour debutant. He's not one of those sort of generational Brooks, Ayusos, Evenepoels, etc, etc. So a bit more of an unknown, but I am still a fan of Onley. I don't want to put you off of picking him. I do think that he is still a good choice. as shown by the number of stages he could probably compete in. Christian Rodriguez, I think, is a good shout as well. I kind of glossed over him in my preview yesterday, but we're going to talk about him now. Probably RKS say in their press release, if you look at their website for their team, they say that he is primarily targeting stages, and and he might also, if things keep going that way where he's up there in GC, maybe he goes up for GC as well. So he's primarily targeting stages, and GC is a secondary thought, which is the perfect way to be scoring points as a climbing breakaway guy. So Christian Rodriguez, great shout. I would recommend you putting him on your team. Tratnik and Van Baarle, as I said in the preview yesterday, will probably get somewhere between 400 to 500 points. But I do see some of these guys, like if a Christian Rodriguez or an Onley or a Van Aertveld or a Zana or a De Plus or whoever gets in enough breakaways and finishes okay in GC, they could get 700 to 800 points. So this is why I'm going to mention these guys, as they are sort of like a backstop. But if you wanted to go a little bit more risky, go for some of the guys who I've mentioned previously. Van Aertveld, like I just said, a bit more of a longer climber than an Onley. We've seen him do well in GC. I think it was in Volta Catalunya. And yeah, he is a bit more of like a longer climb kind of suited rider than Onley. So Van Aertveld's another young sensational talent who probably the best climber which Lotto Destiny have in this race. So good rider there. Zana won a stage of a Giro, but he didn't hit the 600 credits, the 600 points for the 100 PPC. So Zana, even though he did so well at the Giro, didn't hit that quota. So I'm maybe a little bit less thinking about picking him, but there's more breakaway opportunities here. But is he going to have to look after Dunbar a lot of the time? I'm not really too sure, especially if they've got more aspirations for Dunbar after his Giro performance. So Zana's good, but I would maybe take he's got the experience of over like an Van Aertveld and an Onley and stuff like that, but I think that maybe like Christian Rodriguez is probably one of your safer ones over Zana, personally, just because Rodriguez has freedom from the get-go, and therefore I quite like that. 4 credit riders, Julien Bernard, very good at going into breakaways, very similar to Kenny Elissonde. He's in a contract year, so Bernard's a good one to be picking up, because maybe he doesn't win the K1 classification, but he'll get in a damn number of breakaways to try and fight for it. So he's probably a good one to be going for. And the advantage of these 4 credit riders is that they have such a low ceiling to hit. They only need to hit 400 credits to be good. And there might just be a Derek G in here who got like 1,200 points. So don't write off a 4 credit rider because they're 4 credits and you think that they must be bad because they're 4 credits. It's just a matter of you got to find the value in here where perhaps George didn't think it existed. Govacar's another example. Top 10 in a sprint stage, if you can call it a sprint at the Dauphiné. So Govacar will probably get 4 or 5 top 10s, a decent haul, but he's probably one of the safer 4 credit riders to be going with. There are more outrageous ones, a bit more audacious that you could go with instead, like maybe a Malaysia, like a Juanpe Lopez or a Nelson Oliveira, for example. I'm very high on Jason Osborne, like I said. Think back to when Vine did his first Vuelta. I think he did finish like 10th on one stage and 3rd in another. Osborne, I think, is a really good rider. Like I said, if you look at he did really good in San Sebastian. He came 16th in that race, which when you look at the riders who are around him, who we will go and look at now, you'll see that he is A, in a contract year, B, good in Tour of Austria, only beaten by Jonathan Navarez, who is a Grand Tour stage winner. Osborne finished 16th, and when you look at the riders in this group that are with Osborne, you've got Arambaru, Rui Costa, Bajoli, Benoit, Ayuso, Bettiol, Hershey, Champoussin, Carlos Rodriguez, Mikel Landa, Chris Harper, Jakob Fuglsang and Felix Gall, and then Jason Osborne's just in there. Like, that's not a fluke that he's in there. He got over this San Sebastian terrain and finished deservingly in this group, which is why I'm such a big fan of him for this race, because he is one of the only climbing guys that Alpecin have in this race. I mean, look at their team. That is not a team filled with climbers. So on any hilly terrain, he should have free rein to do his own thing. And he's not like inexperienced either. He has done a lot of big races this year. Like, I think he's done the Dauphiné. He did Paris-Nice. He did the Tour of Romandy. He'd done the UE